In this next lesson, we're going to explore the newly designed user interface here in CorelDRAW X4. Now, if you're a user of previous versions of CorelDRAW, don't worry. You'll have no problem finding your way around. You'll feel totally comfortable in this environment. It really hasn't changed in that way, but what you will notice is a fresh new look. So to really explore the user interface, we should open up a file. You'll notice right now that my menus, for example, are very sparse. The tools on the various toolbars and in the toolbox are grayed out, not accessible, and that's because I've got nothing open right now to work on. So let's open up a file first. To do that, we know there's a few different ways. We could go up to our little button up here for the welcome screen. We saw in the previous lesson that the welcome screen gives us an opportunity to open up recently used files or even browse to existing files. So if we click this button from the quick start page here, you can see under open recent, if you've opened up and worked on any other CorelDRAW files, they'll be listed here. For example, I've got intro file x4.cdr. You may have nothing here, but when I hover over a file with my mouse button, I see a thumbnail of the first page over there on the left, and down below some additional information about that file. Now, if you do have nothing here, you do have a button down below that allows you to browse through the folders in your computer. By choosing the Open Other button, you'll be able to do just that. But if you don't have the welcome screen open, like I didn't, I'm going to close it up here. Your other option is to go up to the File menu and choose Open from here. Control-O is the keyboard shortcut, yet another way. And if I click out here to close up this menu, you'll notice that the second button on my toolbar here is also an Open button. So all of these will do the same thing. They open up the Open Drawing dialog box, and now all you have to do is browse through your exercise files to the Lesson 1 folder to find this one here, Intro File X4. So I'm going to click on it once to select it. Now, if you have the exercise files, wherever you store them, you'll have to browse to them. Mine are on the desktop. If you don't have the exercise files, don't worry. You can still learn lots just by watching. So with Intro File X4 selected, I'm going to click the Open button down below here in this dialog box to open it up. And now if you check out my user interface, I've got lots of buttons to choose from, lots of tools. Look at my menu bar. I've got File all the way across here to help, lots of options. So let's start our tour right at the top on our title bar. This top bar is called the title bar. It tells you what you're using, CorelDRAW X4, in case you forgot. But more importantly is the name of your file, Intro File X4. It's a .cdr file, a CorelDRAW file, and the entire path. So you can see exactly where this file is located. Also, in the very far right-hand corner, you've got buttons to close up CorelDRAW. This is colored red on purpose. It's a little bit dangerous. Clicking this button will close up the entire application. So if you've got multiple files open, for example, and you haven't saved changes, you will be prompted to, but if you by accident answer no, you'll lose those changes. So you really want to make sure that you don't have anything open, or at least you've saved everything before you click this button. You've also got a minimize and a restore button to keep draw running, but just get it out of the way. You can minimize it, bring it back when you're ready to work on draw again, right where you left off. And you'll notice down below on this next bar called the menu bar, where we see all those menu headings, we have similar buttons. Well, these apply to the actual file that's open in CorelDRAW. So I can minimize this file to work on another file without closing it. Restore it to change its size. Now right now it's restored up, meaning it fills the entire screen. I could restore it down by clicking this button, and you can see now my restore button here is a restore up or maximize button. There's also a little close button here which will close the file itself but keep CorelDRAW open. So I like to go there to close my files after I've saved them. Let's go over here on the left-hand side of our menu bar. These are the menu headings, and each one of these has a menu when you click on them, a drop-down menu. So if I click on File, you'll see File commands, New, Open, Close, Save, Import, Export, Print. All of these are file commands or commands related to working with the entire file. If I go up to the Edit menu with my mouse pointer, you can see Edit commands, many of them not accessible right now because I haven't selected anything or I haven't actually done anything with this file yet. Then I've got View commands, Layout commands, there's Arrange, Effects. Notice that some of these menu items have little black triangles to the right. If I go down to Effects and hover over Adjust, you can see there's a submenu here with a whole bunch of Adjust options. Same thing for Transform and Correction. Down below, I've got a whole bunch more. So keep in mind you've got hidden commands in those submenus. There's bitmaps, text, table, tools, and all the way to help. I'm going to click out here in my actual document, so I've closed up that menu, because the next bar down is our standard toolbar containing buttons which are basically shortcuts to some of the commands we saw in the menu bar. Pretty much every command is available to you through the menus, but there are certain commands you'll use more often than others, and typically they'll appear here on your standard toolbar. For example, this first group, New, Open, Save, and Print. All of those are file commands found on the File menu. Then we've got another grouping, Cut, Copy, and Paste. They appear on the Edit menu. Same with Undo and Redo. Then we've got Import and Export. Those are borrowed from the File menu. We've got a command here for our Application Launcher, and there's our Welcome screen. They're kind of grouped together as well. Zoom options. All of these toolbars and menus are totally customizable. There's a whole chapter dedicated to this later on, where we'll make changes to our toolbars and our menus. Down below this is a really important one. It's called the property bar. Right now you'll see options here for changing the paper type and size. There's some size options there. The orientation, landscape or portrait. You can see I've got page layout options here as well. I've got my unit selected. All of these apply to the entire file down below. But what's really cool about the property bar is its context sensitive, meaning if I come down here and click on the word welcome, you can see that text is now selected. And look up here, my property bar is totally changed to give me a different set of tools. The tools I need when I need them. So here you can see things like the actual size of this object, which happens to be text, the location as well. You can see the font that's being used, the point size, any attributes. If I want to turn underlining or change the justification or alignment, I could do that right from here. If I click on this box down below, which is a yellow rectangle, I get different options up here. These are tools that would apply to working with that kind of object, like changing the borders, for example, or the width of the outline around the outside of my rectangle. If I click out here in a blank spot on my page, it's flipping back now to the original property bar I saw a moment ago. We've also got rulers across the top and down the left-hand side. These show up by default. You can turn them on and off at your leisure, but right now they're on, showing me exactly the size and position here of things on my page. Down the left-hand side is a toolbox. These are tools that you're going to be using to create things here in CorelDRAW. This is all part of the design process. There's lots of tools, and you'll notice that some of these tools have little black triangles, and they do have submenus called flyouts. For example, if I come up here to the zoom tool and I click, notice that I've got two zoom options, the zoom and the hand tool. If I come down here now without clicking and just hover over these, I see the flyouts. And you'll notice something about these flyouts. I've gone over here to this polygon tool. They have these little dots across the top, and that means that when I hover over them, I see a four-sided arrow that allows me to click and drag to move that set of tools to any place on my page. Notice that I keep the tool over here, but now I've got them easily accessible as I work on my document. And I can close up that little set just by clicking the close button. And of course, you'll notice I've got these little dots at the very top of the toolbox, the entire toolbox, as well as my property bar and my standard toolbar, meaning I can float any of these. If I don't want my toolbox docked over here on the left-hand side, I can click and drag when I see the four-sided arrow here at the top and place my toolbox anywhere I want. I can size it to any shape I want as well. And when I'm done with it, I could close it, but I lose my tool. So even better is to put it back over here. I can drag it back to its location. It'll be docked there, or double click up here where it says toolbox, and that puts it back where it was when I dragged it away from there. Same thing goes for your standard toolbar, your property bar, and over here on the right-hand side, the dockers. The dockers appear over here, and right now Hints is showing up by default. Hints is a tab over here. It's a separate docker, and you can see I've got actually two dockers. One's called the Object Manager. And dockers can be opened up by going to the Window menu, down to Dockers, and you'll see right now I've got two with check marks next to them. You may have these same two or others if you've used them. For example, the View Manager, if I click on it, it's now opened up here at the top. Now I can collapse my dockers by clicking the double arrow up here at the top. You can see tabs now for my View Manager, Object Manager, and Hints. Clicking any of those brings them back. The View Manager, though, always appears up here at the top. When I'm done with an actual Docker, I can close it by clicking the Close button. And you can see I'm back to Hints now. I can switch to my Object Manager just by clicking the tab. And of course, I can always go up to Window, down to Dockers, and deselect something that has a check mark. That'll turn it off. If I didn't want Hints, I click on Hints here to turn it off. Always come back here to turn it back on. I'm going to leave Object Manager and Hints on at this time. And to undock my Hints, I just go to the title bar and drag it wherever I want it to go. Now you can see I've got both of these Dockers here floating around on my screen. Double clicking up here in the title bar will put it back where it was. Just to the right of the Dockers, you've got the color palette. You can see a standard set of colors here, but there are more. I can click this double arrow down here. It's a single arrow actually with a line in front of it, and that'll show me an extended set of colors. And if I click back out here anywhere, it collapses back down to that standard set. And just to let you know, there are more colors than what you're seeing. This is a standard set, but if you wanted extended colors, for example, shades of cyan, you can click and hold your mouse button down to see the extended palette and then select a shade of cyan right from here. So for example, I'm going to click Cancel here. I'm going to click right on my text, Welcome, come over here and click on Cyan. You can see it just changes my text color to cyan. But if I wanted a different shade, I just click and hold this down. Now I can just move over here to maybe a darker shade. Click on it. I see that change right here. Deselect my object by clicking on a blank space. And that's how easy it is to use the color palette. We'll have a whole bunch of lessons just dedicated to working with color. Down at the bottom of your screen, you've got some information showing up down here on what we call our status bar. Watch what happens when I click on my text here, Welcome. Well, first of all, my hints change over here to give me hints about moving, scaling, and stretching objects. Down below, though, you can see this object is what we call artistic text, and it's using the Arial black font. And you can see it's on layer 2. So I've got information. There's the text size as well, so in points. And some instructions down below about what I could do with this object, like double-clicking it to get some tools for rotating and skewing and so on. So when I deselect my text, you can see that I get a different piece of information showing up down here at the bottom. I'm going to click on my yellow rectangle. Down at the bottom, I get some information. This is called a curve on layer 1. And look over here too. You can see there's things like the outline and the colors being used. If I go up to my text and click on it, there's the fill color, that blue I selected with no outline. So you really get some helpful information about the different objects on your page down there on the status bar. So pay attention to what's going on down there for sure. Also, you've got some navigation buttons here for doing things like flipping between multiple pages in a CorelDRAW file, if you've got them. This one has 2 pages, page 1 and page 2. If I click on page 2, I'll see that page. If I go back to page 1, I'm back to page 1. Notice I've also got navigation buttons. Here it says I'm on 1 of 2. If I click the right arrow, I'll be on 2 of 2. To go back to the beginning, I can click the arrow with the line in front of it on the left, or to the end. There's an arrow with a line after it. Of course, this works better with even more pages than 2. To add pages, I'm going to go back to the first page here. You've got a plus sign on the left as well as on the right. So if you wanted to add a new page before the current page, you would click this one on the left. If you wanted to add a new page after page 1, you click this little plus sign on the right. Clicking it adds the page. You can see now I'm on page 2 of 3. Page 1 is my welcome. Page 3 has my vector and bitmap that we're going to be using in the next lesson. So I'm going to go back here to page 1. And if I don't want page 2, I'm just going to right click on it. I see a pop-up menu. Keep in mind, right clicking always gives you context sensitive options like delete page in this case. So I'm going to click on delete page and it's gone. I'm back to page 1 and page 2. Go back to page 1 by clicking the tab. So that is the user interface. We're going to keep this file open for the next lesson where we talk about the difference between a vector image and a bitmap image. Each has its own advantages and each are worked with differently here in CorelDRAW.